So we can start with the genocide part. Do you know which part of modern day Turkey your family is from?
Yeah, I'm from Sasun. Um, that's my family name. Actually, my last name Sharoyan comes from Sasun because there was a prince of Sasun at the time, and his name was Ishkan Sharo. That's where my last name Sharoyan comes from, like the family of Sharo. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think they like we even like had like a house. Like my dad visited it when he went to Sasun once, and like it's like known to be like that Ishkan Sharo's house. Even though I googled him, I don't know where he is from, but he's not on Google though. I tried to find him, but I don't know.
That's cool. Um, so both your mama and dad's side are from Sasu?
My mom's half of her family is from Sasun, and the other half, think, I think, are from. Like my mom is like half Syrian, half Armenian. Like she's like not fully. So, like that's why we say like I'm like 3/4 from Sasun, and then a quarter I think from like Dikranagir or something. I'm not sure though. Like we don't like talk about that part. I don't know. Like my dad just like likes to emphasize that we're from Sasun a lot, and like he always shows me like the dance that they do and before the war. I don't know. You've seen it? The
No.
Sasun dance.
Can you do it for us?
It's like very intense because like apparently before they went to war they would use it to like hype up their adrenaline. So it's like very like they just like hit their hands against each other and they just like turn around each other. I don't know. You can Google it.
Okay.
YouTube, I don't know.
Thanks.
It's
do you know when they left Sasun and any of the stories of the genocide?
Okay, so my dad's, I don't know, not from my mom's side. I know my dad's side. My dad's side of the family. So my great grandpa used to work in Aleppo before. So when the genocide happened, he didn't actually have to run away, but he had a family in Sasun. He had his wife and like a bunch of kids, and they were all murdered. And then like on the way, I think they were like all murdered. And he was like really really old, but like he felt that it was his duty to like have more kids after the genocide. So after everything happened, I think he remarried in Aleppo, and he had like 4 more kids, one of which was my grandpa. And he like passed away. Like my grandpa didn't see him too much, just because I think he was like in his 60s already, like when he had like those kids. And yeah, I think.
Do you know any of the stories of deportation?
Deportation. No.
That's okay. Is there anything else from life in Sasun, or do you know what they did in Sasun, what their occupation was? No. And any other stories from the genocide that you know about?
Well, from the genocide, there was like a bunch of my family that ended up moving here too. So there's a family of Sharoyan also in Aleppo in Syria, and we actually like ended up meeting them like in the 1990s. Like we found out that there's like these 3 kids that they're like very far relatives, and their last name's also Sharoyan, and they come from the same dudes, the Ishkan guy, and so in the 1990s they like ended up visiting their dad, and the 3 kids like ended up visiting, and 3 of them are kind of known here too, and like one of them's in the parliament. His name is Roland Sharoyan. He's like in charge of sports or something, and like their sister Rita, she's like on TV, like she was a hostess at one point. So like I guess like we had like a long lost family that we met after the genocide, if that counts.
That's cool. So your grandfather was born in Aleppo.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Harut.
Okay.
Harut June. Yeah.
And do you know what his occupation was and what
Yeah.
it was like for him?
He was one of the first people to actually like bring the cotton milling machine to Syria. So that's how he became kind of successful. And then afterwards, like it was just like he was like he's a funny guy. He would be like since his like since the day he passed away, he would still go to work, even though he wouldn't do much. He would just still give people more work to do at work, even though it wasn't like helpful. But he was like always like involved. But like raised like my dad and my uncle were both like he raised them well enough for them to like know what they're doing in the business, and like they had a very successful like, business there. Like they would after the con thing, like he just like, and actually my dad's dad had my mom's dad working for him at one point, like when my other grandpa was like 15 or like 14 or something, and used to work because my mom's dad's family was like not wealthy at all. But yeah, so they ended up turning the business into like rebar and like metal. So like they would like get metal and then sell it basically for like buildings and stuff.
And did your dad take over that
Yeah.
business?
So my dad ended up taking over that business, and it was like we were doing it until the war, and like my dad was like working in Syria, Iraq, and Egypt, all of which are not working right now because all the countries are not doing really well.
Wow. Was there a lot that you know of? Was there a lot of connection and relationship between those countries?
It was more the idea was that like my dad knew people there for him to like be able to work there. So like it wasn't like because the countries were more similar. It was more the idea that my dad knew people he could trust there. That like because like he wasn't there for him to like keep an eye on the job, so he needed someone there to like keep an eye on it, you know. And there was just like opportunities that came up. It wasn't really planned because I don't think my dad like thought like, oh, I want to work in Iraq. Like, it just happened.
Moving to your life in Syria and you growing up in Syria, where were you born?
Okay, so I was not born in the U.S. and I'll go back a bit from my dad's history to explain why I was not born in the U.S. I was not born in Syria. I was born in the U.S. So when my dad was like 21 or 22 or 23, something like that, all his friends were like moving to the U.S. at the time. So he ended up visiting his best friend, and he was staying with his best friend's grandma in LA. And he was just like his idea at first was to go and get the green card, but once he was there, he didn't like try to get the green card. It was more of him just going to like learning English and having fun with his friends and like trying things that he hadn't like sushi. Like he told me he tried sushi, like things that weren't available in Syria. After he moved back to Syria, he like thought about it and he was like, oh okay, like he. So once my parents got married, and they had my brother, like 1991, they went back to the U.S. and they just got their green card, and then they had the green card. So when my mom was born with me, and 1996, they had the idea of like me being born there, just like because they already had the green card, so they just like wanted to try it, and like, my mom was telling, we were talking about it recently actually, because I was curious, because like my mom apparently would go to the doctor like every 2 days to see like if I was like turned in the right position, because she didn't want to go and do a C-section in America, because she just wanted to do a natural birth. If it wasn't natural, because her mom wasn't going to be with her, because my grandma couldn't go, because my grandma only had the Syrian passport, and it's like kind of hard. Yeah, but I don't know if you still want background history, but like my mom's family is from Venezuela. My mom was born in Venezuela, so my mom was born in Venezuela. I also have the Venezuelan passport. It's expired, but yeah. So like my grandma's first language is Spanish. Like she barely knows. Like doesn't know how to read Armenian. She barely knows how to read Arabic. Like it's mainly Spanish. Like she would always ask me to buy her Spanish books in America, and that's it.
Sorry. So yeah, let's go back to
Yeah.
that. So your grandma's family,
It's still there.
after the genocide, went to Aleppo.
Yes.
Then when did they move to Venezuela?
So when my grandma's mom is the one that said that she's like Syrian. She's not Armenian fully.
Okay.
But they ended up moving to Venezuela when my grandma was like a couple of years old. So my grandma was actually born in Syria, but she moved to but this is like, let me count the years, in the 50s, 1950s. Like my grandma's very young. She's 60 something, 61 or 62.
So your grandma is
Venezuelan.
Syrian Venezuelan.
Armenian.
Because her mom's Her dad,
Her dad is
is
Armenian.
Armenian.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like her mom never knew Armenian.
Okay.
So they ended up moving there, and my grandma, when she got married, my grandpa moved there, and that's why my aunt and my mom were born in Venezuela. But then they moved to Syria after they were born.
Do you know why they moved to Venezuela?
I actually have no idea. But they're still there. Like my mom has a grandma, and like a bunch of aunts and uncles there, and like all their kids.
And do you know why they moved back to Syria?
My grandpa was like starting a business in Syria, and once he went back and started it, like he actually like started a very big business, and my grandpa ended up being really wealthy because of that business. And it was also something with metal again. I don't know what it was exactly, but like after that, like my mom's family was like known to be like very. My mom's family was known like if you like said her last name, like she was like very. My mom's family was like very respected
In Aleppo.
in Aleppo. And, like all the Armenian Aleppo people, yeah. So, but my mom's last name is funny because it doesn't have the IAN at the end too. But like they're all Armenian. I don't know.
So then she moved back to Aleppo, married your dad who was from Aleppo, and then had you in America.
Had my brother in Aleppo, had me in America. But my mom, before she got married, she used to live in Greece as well at one point.
Okay.
So she used to go to like an American school in Greece, and for like 2 or 3 years, and then they moved back. But, yeah.
So then, you were born in 1996 in California.
Yeah, in Burbank.
Right. And when did you come right back to Aleppo?
Yeah, I was like a few weeks old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which part of Aleppo did you live in?
Okay. So I used to live in Vilat, which is, I don't know if you guys heard of it. Yeah, people said it, I'm guessing. It's like, Sulamania is like the older Armenian area, and then Vilat was like the newer like area that they were building up. And we used to live on a street that like overlooked like a river. Well, later on it overlooked a river. Like they used to cover the river at one point, and then they opened it up again. And like it was on the same street as like six or five buildings down. It was like my grandparents' building, and then we were like a few buildings towards the end.
And what was it like growing up in Aleppo? What school did you attend? What were some activities you participated in?
I used to go to the Armenian school up until I was in grade 3.
Which one?
Aygazian? I don't know. Aygazian. There's like Achchignerun Pazin and Daganerun Pazin, but like even though like they're both mixed, but before there used to be 2 different ones because like guys and girls couldn't be in the same one. I used to be in the boys one, and then afterwards I think you have to go to the girls one because like there's no space. I don't know, something. But I was in the Haigazian school, and in grade 3, my parents were trying to, and around that time my brother was in Icarda, which is the American school. And my parents were trying to get me into the school, but there's no space for me. Since I was in grade 1, we've been trying to get my papers in, but like they will have like very limited space for students. And usually you have to have like a second passport for you to get into that school, because it's like usually for foreigners, and they don't like to make it available for a lot of people, because the whole idea of that school was for it to be open for people who are doing research in Syria, so their kids could get like an education that wasn't like bad for them when they leave the country, because they always come for like a few years and do a bit and then go somewhere else. So it was like the IB program. Activities that I did. I used to be in the Armenian choir like at one point, but like that was the idea, was that like, so after I got put into Icarda, my parents were like, my dad is like super like Armenian in the sense that like, oh, like he doesn't want me to forget the language, so he used to have like a tutor come in. He didn't want me to like forget my Armenian friends, so like I didn't really go out with like a lot of people in my class. I used to go out with Armenian people, and then he wanted me to be participating in like sports and stuff, but I was never into sports. So I didn't do the sports one. So I used to be in the choir. And I remember it was like so much work, because it was like the schedule for my school was like a lot. Like we ended school a lot later, and I used to like be in always such a rush to go, just because like to make my dad happy, kind of like, even, yeah, but it was fine.
Um, what what was it like growing up with non-Armenians? Did you interact a lot with them?
I'm very thankful that I didn't grow up with Armenians, actually. Like I had, I guess like it might be hard for you guys to hear, just because I don't know if you guys grew up with Armenians. I don't know if you like don't like that. You guys probably wish you grew up with Armenians, but I don't know. Like in Syria, I felt like it like opened me up to like a lot more doors, in the sense that like my mind was like a lot more open to a lot of things, and I like really resented the Armenian community because like they still like said like, oh, like like oh, girls can't do this, and then like, oh, you're a guy, oh, you're tall, you have to go play basketball. Like my teachers were never like that in like my school, and I loved that. And so I never like, I like liked the fact that I wasn't with a lot of Armenians. And eventually, like as the school years went on, like some Armenians ended up coming into my class, and they were like my friends. But like the older I got, the less I like liked them, and the less I spent time with them, and the more I drifted away from them, because I realized that like I really do not think the same way as a lot of them.
Mm.
I don't know if this is bad for
No. It's everyone's been having different opinions. Are there any experiences that you can share about any interactions with Armenians or non-Armenians that impacted you in any way?
Can you repeat it? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too bad. I don't know. I don't know. Do you have any questions about the non-Armenian?
I guess, did you think like going to the American international school made it harder to? Well, you didn't want to connect with them, but like, did you feel this distance?
Yeah, I did. I definitely felt, because everyone like knew each other, and like everyone knew who I was, but they saw me as like kind of an outsider, and like that I didn't know what was going on, because I really didn't like, I didn't understand why like all the boys are so aggressive. Like I get it. Like in my school, people were aggressive too, but like it wasn't like, if you're not aggressive, like, oh, that means you're like too feminine, or like, like it wasn't something bad. Like it was okay to go to the library during like lunch break. So I don't know.
The people in your international school, where were they all from Syria, and what?
Sorry.
Yeah, I know, were they all from Syria, and what was the diversity like in that school?
So I would say like it was like half Syrian people. Like it was like a lot of them were like Syrian people that like were born somewhere else, or like I had like a friend, one of my closer friends. She was like half Armenian too, actually, and she was like half Canadian. She was born in Canada, but like her dad is like Syrian, and her mom was Armenian, and or like there was like people. We had like this guy from Ethiopia, like, which was like a complete foreigner, but like his whole, I think he was actually born in Syria, because like his dad has been working in Syria for like so long, because the school was opened with this organization that did research about like agriculture. So it's called Icarda, and if you Google Icarda, it's like an organization, and it was made for the people that did that, and then eventually like, people started going to it, and then we had like so the way it worked was that we had teachers that came, they were on like 2-year contracts, so every 2 years we got like a bunch of new teachers. So all those teachers usually had families, so all those families would like come with us and then leave. So we had like people from, I don't know, America. He was like super blonde. Where else? Like Germany. I don't know, like random people, or like people that were like Syrian that like lived in like Boston like half their life, and then their family decided to move back to Syria, and like they don't know a word of Arabic to go to Arabic school, so they would have to go to like my school. Things like that.
And you went into the school until what grade?
Until the war started, which was grade 10. So I went from grade 3 till grade 10.
And before moving into the war, was there anything that happened before the war started that indicated to you that like the political climate was changing, or that the war could be coming?
Not at all, actually. Like no, not at all. Nothing.
In terms of political climate, like what was it like growing up in Syria? Did you feel like freedom of speech? Did you feel the freedoms that you might feel living now in America, or what were some differences?
Well, I was a lot younger in the sense that like I don't have to like think about a lot of things because like I was a kid, you know, so I didn't really like think twice about too many things. But I know for me it was like probably a lot easier than like probably a girl that was growing up there, just because like the girl had to have to worry about like, oh, like this is too short, oh people, like it wasn't like you're not allowed to wear it. It was more like people will stare at you, like seriously stare at you if you wear something that like shows your legs a bit, like or shows like, you know, like it's like dumb things like that. So I don't think I was affected by it too much, just because of my gender. I don't know.
Is there anything else that you want to say about growing up in Syria before we move into the war?
I don't know. I like said like I feel like I said mean things about the community, but like it was like I feel like the community is the same everywhere. So like I just have a problem with like the way Armenians think in general. So I don't know.
Yeah. How do you think that you grew to have a different mentality?
Well, like I said, so like a lot of my friends were like people that grew up from outside the U.S. and then they ended up moving to Syria. And one of my closest friends, like that I still have from Syria, is this girl named Judy, and her family is like Assyrian. They're Assyrians.
Sorry, did you mean who lived
With me.
outside Syria?
And she moved. She grew up in Boston, like in a city. I forgot what the city was called. Anyways, so she's fully Syrian, like, but like ethnically, like they're Assyrians, and like actually, like her grandpa like escaped the genocide too. Actually, I remember because like I like didn't know too much about that part. That like it wasn't just Armenians. And like her mom was telling me that like you know that like my family was affected by it too, right? And I was like, what? Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, I was like so close with their family just because I loved her mom and I loved like she had a little brother and like I got along with them really well. And she's still one of the few people I actually talked to from Syria because she ended up going to California, to university in California, and we went to the same school in Lebanon too. So we've been together for like since Syria. So.
Were there certain conversations that you had that like made you more open-minded, or do you think it was just by having friends who thought differently and by being around them?
Yeah, I think definitely like just like having friends that like were like raised differently, and I like that. So I just like was gravitating towards people like that more than people who came from like these closed-minded families. Because like my family was also known in Syria to be like a very open-minded family, but like not to the extent that I would have liked it to be. But like my mom always tells me that like my dad's sisters are like always like known to be like the ones that are like the most free, because like a lot of parents wouldn't let their daughters go out in Syria, and like in the 80s, like my aunts were like known to like go to the pool with like boys and like date around before they got married instead of like immediately getting married, and like they all ended up marrying like musicians, like you know, literally like all of them used to be like in different bands. It's funny. But yeah, but yeah.
So what are some other examples of this, of what you mean when you say closed-mindedness? What are some other examples of things that represented a closed-minded attitude that people in Syria might have had? Like one example is not going out.
Yeah, not going out. Like my mom, she grew up, she didn't have any friends. Like literally, my mom grew up not having any friends, and she wasn't like, my grandpa didn't want her to go to university, and my mom wanted to go to university. And my mom basically, like her getting married was like a good way out, because like she was marrying my dad, and my dad like I don't want to like put my grandpa down, like he's like passed away already, but like he like my mom was like a very like rebellious woman, because like she would like take the car and like at night and like leave without like my grandpa knowing. But like she would also get like my mom has told me that like my grandpa used to like whip the bottom of her legs or something and stuff like that. Like So like there's like all these like women, and that's why my mom always said that she never wanted to have daughters because she didn't want anyone to go through the things she went through when she was growing up. That's why she always wanted two boys, and she ended up getting two boys. Like so, like every time like someone asked her like what if like one of us was like a girl, she's like, oh, I didn't think that it would be. Like she never like thought twice about them not being boys. But yeah. Like, you know, like people wanted boys because they wanted to carry on the family name. My mom was more like, no, I don't want girls because I don't want them to like live in a society that she wasn't going to enjoy her life in. But yeah.
Thank you. That's interesting. So then you grew up until
2012.
2012 in Syria, and then the war started
Yeah.
in 2011. And when did you feel, if at all, that it started to affect you?
I remember like, I don't even know like what it was, but like I remember something was just released on YouTube, and I really wanted to watch it, but I couldn't because there was no internet and there was no like electricity. And I was like so like I was waiting for that thing. I don't know what it was, and I was waiting for it to come out, and I couldn't watch it. And it made me like so sad. Or like I remember like me and my friends would want to go to the pool, and we couldn't because the pool was kind of like across like this like predominantly Kurdish people area, and like it wasn't safe. So I remember at one point like I even have pictures of it up on Facebook. Like I invited my friends over to like my building, and we went to the roof because everyone lives in like apartment buildings, and we went to the roof, and we had like blown up pools. And like my mom would invite her friends over like another day. It was funny. Like we like always found a way around it, but like it was things like that we were used to doing that we weren't allowed to do anymore just because. And like I remember one of those nights as well. Like I was like looking up, and there's like all these airplanes shooting at stuff, and it like felt surreal because you don't notice that like how close it is. Like I have pictures on my camera. Like I have a camera, and I was like taking pictures. But like I don't know why I wasn't scared. I guess like me being in America, I like think twice about it now. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been up on the roof staring at the airplanes shooting. I don't know. But yeah.
Do you think it was normalized at that point?
Yeah, you feel normal. Like, and actually like after I moved to Lebanon, like I feel like it became more normal. But we can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah. All these little things like the YouTube video and the shooting. Do you remember what year that was or what month?
Yeah. It was like all in like August, July of 2012, like right before I left.
Oh, okay.
Like it was really bad because there was like I'm saying it was really bad, but like after that it became so much worse. Like it became really bad because like I left right before the airplane shut down in Aleppo, so I was still like lucky to like leave in an airplane. Like I know when like family, some of my aunts were still there. Like when they would visit me, they would like told me it's like 18 hours or something, and like they would have to like do this like at some points just in case like someone shoots the car, like because like it would be like I don't know like.
Yeah. What what was it like going to school during the war? Did your school continue?
In Syria?
Mm-hmm.
So my school shut down in April. It was like February, and I remember it was like the first bomb that happened, and I actually woke up from that because it was like early in the morning, and I think it happened somewhere near my school. And I remember it was like a Saturday morning. It was like a weekend, I think. And on Saturday mornings, my friends have like a basketball practice at school, and I remember I was like thinking like, I hope they're okay. And I think I messaged them, and they told me they were like freaking out because like no one was expecting it, it happened out of nowhere. And I think that was like the day like we all like realized like, oh, like this is serious. And that was also the day that like our professors, I think not in high school, they're not, our high school teachers were like scared, and like a lot of them like got into this cab, and they were like trying to leave the city as soon as possible. And we thought like we didn't know what was going on. Like we just kept hearing rumors like, oh, this just happened. Like, oh, someone told me that like Mr. Norman went into like left the country and stuff like that, and we didn't know what was going on. And once it was like the next week, like Monday or Tuesday or something, we already like started school again, and everything was kind of normal in a sense. But the school had made the decision to shut down in April. So it was like April 10, and I remember it was like super hectic because I was in the yearbook committee, and the president of the yearbook committee and okay, so it was like April, but like since it was getting serious, like every week I was saying bye to someone in my class. Like every week someone was leaving already because like a lot of them had like another passport. They were just like not down for like to die. So like everyone was like leaving already. So I remember every week someone was leaving, and one of the person that left was in charge of the yearbook, and I had to take over. I remember, and it was so hectic because like yeah, it just took forever, but we got it done, and even though it doesn't really matter, but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of other little things like that we wouldn't know of, like having to say goodbye to somebody every
Yeah.
week, or not being able to look up a YouTube video. Like, what other little things were there that affected your everyday life, if you can think of any? Or other moments or experiences you can speak of that pushed you closer to wanting to leave Syria?
Well, okay, so right when the things were happening in April and my school shut down, my dad just like bought me a ticket to go to the U.S. and I was in the U.S. till like from April to like really early July, so it was like a really long time, and so I didn't experience too much of it. But like I think when I came back, it was like the worst time also. Like like it was like slowly getting worse and worse and worse. And by the time I got back, it was actually like really bad. And that was like when I got back, and there was like no electricity and things, and we had to get like this little like machine that you had to like pull to like give us like light for like one of the rooms in our house. But I don't know, like not having AC to sleep with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Why did you come back in July?
It was always supposed to be till July. The idea was that since my school was shutting down, and I didn't have anything to do till like June, so my dad just got me the ticket, so I wouldn't be like in the city like doing random stuff, like possibly like hurting myself or like getting hurt. So he was just like, why don't you just go to the U.S. and stay with my cousin, and then when you come back, like everything will be fine. But like it was.
And so what? So when you came back, when you say it was really bad, you said no electricity, but
No water.
were there more bombs? Like what else? Were there more
It was more like you heard like people were like getting closer to the city, like more people were dying, and like it was just like serious in the sense that like Aleppo was kind of starting to get surrounded at the time, like and they're like I don't know like, I don't know in detail what happened, but I remember it was like worse and worse. Like I think they bombed like this really famous restaurant or like building that was like right across the citadel in Aleppo, and it's like things like that. Like you just like felt like it was like really serious because like you couldn't go to the parts that you were allowed to. You would have gone to before. And
who was closing in on the city? Do you know? You don't.
No, I think it was like the Free Syrian Army, which turned into ISIS later on. But I think at the time it was still considered to be the Free Syrian Army.
And then how long did you stay in Aleppo when you returned?
So while I was in America, my friends had asked me to apply to like the school in Lebanon just in case. The one I told you is in California with me. So I applied to that school with her because her parents had done some research about the best schools in Lebanon. So I just applied to it, and then it was like a backup, and then we got word a few weeks after I applied that the school wasn't opening again, our school in Syria. So right when I came back in July, I actually had to go to Lebanon for like a few days to do my entrance exam. And
to high school, to finish high school.
To finish high school because I needed to do my grade 11 and my junior and senior year. So I went to Lebanon and came back, but the airport was still open at the time, so it was like really easy. Yeah.
And so you went, took your exams, and came back to Syria.
Yeah.
So how much longer were you in Syria?
So I was there for like a month and a bit actually. I remember it was August 20 something that I moved, and we left Syria with my aunt because my aunt's daughter had married this Armenian guy in Lebanon. So she had a place to stay. So we both left together, and it was like the last few weeks of the airport actually working. We didn't know it was going to be the last few weeks, but it was the last few weeks. And we got to Lebanon, and we didn't even have anything planned. Like, it was never supposed to be something permanent. It was like something like my parents were just coming with me to support me, but like they weren't actually planning on staying there. You know, like their idea was that like one of them would be here all the time, and the other one going back and forth. Or like they didn't. My parents didn't even pack most of their stuff. Like they didn't bring any winter clothes because the idea was I was only supposed to. They're dropping me off because my brother also lived in Lebanon, but they're also gonna go back and get more stuff later. So like when we got there, like it was like a few weeks before my school started, and we didn't even have like a house to rent out. We didn't have anything planned. Like it was just like we just went because my dad's aunts lived there. So
you stayed with your dad's aunts?
we stayed over there with my dad's aunts in Lebanon for until we found an apartment to rent.
And is that where you lived when you went to school there?
No, the apartment we rented, not my dad's aunt's. My dad's aunt's house is like apartment is not big enough. Like you're sleeping on the floors.
But then when you went to school in Lebanon?
We had an apartment. Yeah, we rented out an apartment like in the mountains. So it was like a really nice apartment actually. It's like nicer than the house we had in Syria. But yeah, none of us expected it to be this long. So my dad was like, oh, since we're like renting something, like let's rent something nice, because we actually knew the owner of the apartment. Like it was like a really distant family. So we got like a really good price for it. So we just like thought might as well like stay somewhere nice, like not go like Burj Hamud or something.
So you were in Beirut.
Yeah.
And your brother was also living with you?
My brother was studying in northern Lebanon in a university in the mountains. It's like an Orthodox university called Belamed, and it was like an hour and a half drive from my house. So he would always come on the weekends, but he had like a little room rented out there too, just because like the commute was like not worth it every day. My brother had already been there for like 2 years at the time. Yeah, he got here in 2010.
Because that's what he chose to go.
Yeah. Because it was like really close to the border of Syria too. So like if he wanted, like he could have, like he would visit us like every few weeks, you know, because he had a car and it was like easy because his school was really close to the border. Well, Lebanon is like borders from all the sides to Syria too, but.
So you thought that your parents thought they were just coming there to drop you off and maybe go back. And
go back and forth. Yeah.
But then what happened?
But then, right when we came back, like it just kept getting worse, and we heard news that like the airport wasn't gonna work anymore because it wasn't safe, because they were worried that like people from the Free Syrian Army or like ISIS would like shoot the airplanes, so they didn't think it was safe. So because of that, it was like harder to access Syria. So a lot of the things we had to do was like my dad's like worker had to go into our apartment and like pack my mom's clothes and my dad's clothes, and we didn't think my mom. I remember when I went to America, I got my mom like a new pair of sneakers and like running shoes, and like the guy couldn't find them. It was just funny because like she had them, she just didn't. We couldn't get them. Yeah.
Were they able to go back to Syria at any point?
I think my mom ended up going back in March 2013. My mom definitely took it the hardest, the whole moving. Me moving to Lebanon was probably the best thing that happened to me. Just because it's like a lot more open-minded and it's like a lot more fun for me. A lot of people hated it there, but I had a lot of fun there. So it was good for me. My mom would definitely took it harder. Like my mom gained a lot of weight after the war, and she got like a lot more. Like even though she was like really young, she's like had like thyroid problems and like all affected by like not being happy, obviously. So.
When she went back in 2013, was it to see family, to get more things, or was it?
She wanted to see her friends. She wanted to see our house. She just like missed everything, you know. She took it really hard, and she became like a lot more into her phone because she wanted to talk to her friends more, the ones that she couldn't see anymore. So it was just like, and also at the time when we were in Lebanon, my grandma was staying with us too. So I was sharing my bedroom with my grandma. So it was funny because my grandma like smokes a lot, and like me, my dad, and my brother and my mom, we like all hate like cigarette smoke. So the poor lady like would like have to go outside and smoke in the cold, and I felt so bad for her. But yeah, um, she was waiting to get her visa because she wanted to visit her. At the time, both of her parents were my grandpa's and both parents were alive in Venezuela. And she wanted to see them because she hadn't seen them for like 6 or 7 years. So she was waiting for her visa and like her paperwork. Because even though my grandma lived most of her life in Venezuela, she never got the citizenship because she was born in Syria. So she had a lot of trouble visiting them, but she ended up going back to visit them. But it just took like a year to get the visa, I think. Because she also like after she got the visa, she had to worry about getting a transit visa because her like layover was in France and like they were like being bitches and they wouldn't give her like a visa and it took forever. But
Is your house still in Syria?
yeah. The guy that like worked for my dad, he still has the keys. And my grandma actually ended up moving back. Like a long story, but she ended up going back. She moved here and then she moved back. But
She moved here to Armenia. So she went to Venezuela and then
so she went to
Armenia.
Venezuela and she got my grandma and my great grandma don't get along really well. So she had like a huge fight and she just ended up deciding to go back. So she moved back and she went to stay in like near Latakia. Like there's a little city called Banyas, and that's where my uncle was staying. So she went and stayed with my uncle, and my uncle was like staying with his in-laws. So it was like this house. It was like a house, I guess, and it had like my uncle's in-laws, and then my uncle's brother-in-law, and my uncle's other brother-in-law, and both of their families. And like each one had their own room, kind of. And I don't know why my grandma was also there too. So it was like this like, house with like a bunch of like families inside. But like yeah, I guess. So she was there for like a year, and then they're like trying to do paperwork to go to Canada, and they got the paperwork. And my uncle's like in Toronto right now, and his in-laws are all in Toronto. And my grandma was supposed to go with them, but last minute like it didn't work out. She just really did not want to go because I can't blame her just because like she's going with her son, and then usually like when you're with your son like it's not like the same as when you're with your daughter or something, just because like so my grandma did realize that and she just decided like not to go, so she just moved here and she was staying like right in the building across my house here, and she was fine. And then like one day like she moved in the winter, so it was like bad, and she like fell down the stairs and she broke a hip. The poor lady, because it was like slippery and like icy, and she's like not used to it, and she wanted to go out to smoke. so so the lady fell and she had to get like surgery here, and then afterwards at simultaneously my mom's sister, she has multiple sclerosis, so she had gotten like a residency in Germany. Like she like immediately went and like said like she has multiple sclerosis, and like they immediately took her in and took care of her, and like that like they were like giving her like treatment and stuff. But my cousin was with her, and my cousin was not happy in Germany, so he made the executive decision to move back to Syria. And when he decided to move back to Syria, my aunt was like not gonna stay in Germany by herself, so she decided to go back too. So my aunt moved back, and then my grandma did not feel comfortable for her to be in Syria by herself. So now my grandma also went back to Syria. So now my aunt, my cousin, and my grandma are all in Syria.
And do you know how they are and how things are for them?
My grandma always calls me like once a month. She tells me she's fine, but like I know at one point it wasn't really good because.
Do you think from what they've said and from what you know, the situation has gotten better in Syria?
Yeah, actually, not only from her, because my dad's sister also lives there. Yeah, I think they say it's better, but like my dad's actually planning on going back sometime in the next few months. So because especially now there's like a flight to go to Damascus apparently, so it's like easier. Like everyone dreaded going to Beirut and then like having like the 18-hour bus just because Lebanese people were not making it easy on any of the Syrians. Like they just really did not want any Syrians to go in, like because they have like a lot of refugees right now, and they're worried like whenever someone went in to use the airport, that they would not leave, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like really hard on a lot of people. So this makes it a lot easier for people to go.
And when you say like that it's gotten better, does that mean that there's more electricity, there's more water, there are less shellings?
There's like people are making more money too, you know. Like there's like jobs, and then there's people are going out. Like they're not as scared to go out, you know. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I know so many families here, like their dads are like working in Syria and like making the money first from Syria because like there's no way to make money here in Armenia. So
Are there still like troops around Aleppo or any that you know of?
I like do not know anything about what's going on. Honestly, it's very bad, but I don't know. I've like very distanced myself a lot. So like all I know is like if my grandma's okay. That's like all I know.
Oh, that's good. So you studied for 2 years in Lebanon.
Yeah.
And then from there, what did you do?
So I was in Lebanon, and it was like just figuring out what I wanted to do because I applied to all the schools that I needed. I applied to AUB, and that was like my choice of school there, and I got in, and it was just, like the idea of like what I wanted to do next, like if I wanted to stay there or leave, and I applied to like Cal Poly just like as a backup, just in case if I decided to go to California. I didn't know it was actually hard to get into when I applied actually. And then I applied to Penn State. Like I was like just like applying to like random schools that I thought were like interesting that had architecture, and that's the only thing I knew. I knew I wanted to do architecture, and I knew that like I hadn't prepared portfolio for myself, so I was like applying to a lot of schools that like didn't require a portfolio from like mission. So as like time passed and things were in Lebanon were like not looking really well either, my dad was like more supportive of the idea of like me going to the US because I'd always expressed that I wanted to go to the US to study, and my dad was never really okay with it because he always had this fear of like me going there and not coming back. So once things were like not looking really good in Lebanon, he was just like you should just go, you know. And once I got into Cal Poly, it was like kind of like the decision was already made, and yeah, I don't know, it was a good decision, I guess, because in Lebanon, like, I would be paying a lot of money too. And from what I hear, like, the universities there, like, they're not very fair.
So when did you move to California?
So I graduated May 31st, 2014 in Beirut. And in Lebanon, the climate was like kind of bad too. Sorry, I'm like not answering your question. I just want to give them back.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So the climate was like not looking really well too. Like I told you, like I was like not getting scared of a lot of things over there. And once I moved to Lebanon, it was like getting worse because like Lebanon, like the bombs, like these suicide bombs would happen in the city, and like people were just like numb with it. You know, they didn't care. Like they wanted to live their life, and I like that. That's what I loved most about Lebanon. That like people's morale didn't go down because of what was happening in like other parts of the city. So I remember like at one point like I was supposed to go over to my friend's house because her parents weren't there, and like all my friends were like meeting up there, and we are like gonna sleep there, and we are gonna like hang out at night. And around that time, the same morning of that day, there was like this huge suicide bomb that happened in like Lebanon, and like we all ended up going anyway. You know, like it wasn't like something that scared. We just like we were okay with that. So after I graduated in May, in July, my parents and we all moved here. So because once I decided to Armenia, to Yerevan. So once I decided that like I didn't want to stay in Lebanon, my parents had already made the decision that even if I wanted to stay in Lebanon, that they weren't going to stay in Lebanon because they really did not like it there at all. Just because it had too much traffic, it was super humid, and they didn't like the people because they're too snobby, and they just wanted to come back here just because like they knew that they had like a Syrian Armenian community here, so they were like more happy with that. So we all moved here, and from here, me and my dad went to the U.S. in September 11, 2014, I think. And
For school.
he was helping me move to Cal Poly and to university, and we went and I did my driver's license test, and surprisingly I passed from the first. Like I was preparing how to drive from here, like I had like some Armenian dude teach me how to drive, which was like, yeah, I know, right? I don't know how I passed after taking lessons here, honestly, but I passed for the first time, surprisingly, and my dad leased a car for me, and he left, and then I was in school, and the idea was that the only way my dad let me go to university was in the U.S. was that I had to come back every Christmas and every summer. So every 6 months you'll find me in Yerevan.
And what was it like? Did you live on campus?
Yeah, I lived in the dorms. It was horrible.
Why?
Because you had to share a room with 2 other people, and it was not very big. Like bunk beds.
What was it like? I know you lived in the U.S. for 3 months before, but was there any culture shock that you?
Well, the difference was that now that I was by myself, like I had my own car, I wasn't dependent on anyone, like I had my own number. I didn't have a number before, like I was just staying with my dad's cousin, and I think like slowly like I realized like how nice it was to live in a place where like you didn't have to worry about like every single move you had to make. Cause like I feel like Syrian Armenians are like oh like if you do this, people are gonna think this, so we should do this, And I like that like you don't have to think too much in the U.S. In school, university, like, and I like the fact that I was by myself, like I could do what I wanted. I didn't have to worry about anything, But I don't think I answered it, but. I don't know what the question was. I forgot.
It was elements of culture shock.
Oh, culture shock. No, I think I enjoyed like the culture shock because it was like things that I would have wanted in my life, like the differences that like I liked. Like I had like a transgender like RA. Well, this guy that eventually became transgender like while I was there, and had like these like Lebanese friends who were like half Mexican, and like these like diverse things like I loved, and like would have never been exposed to in like the Middle East, and yeah.
What, in terms of like open-mindedness, did you feel a difference between the U.S. and Lebanon and Syria and Armenia? Like, how would you explain living in each of those places and the mentality there?
Okay, so Syria, I don't know too much just because I feel like I was too young when I was there. But like while I was in Lebanon, I felt like it was pretty open-minded in Lebanon. Like I remember like a lot of my like I had like a bunch of bisexual like women friends that like I would have like never met in Syria, and it was like awesome. Like it was like so much fun, and I like met these like amazing group of people in Lebanon. But then when I came and saw like Armenia here with my parents right before I moved to the U.S., it was just like it made me want to cringe. Like people stared at me just like for wearing like shorts for God's sake, or like wearing like colored shoes, or like I don't know, like dumb things. Like I think once I visited my friends in their university here, and like people were staring at me so much because I was wearing shorts, and apparently people aren't allowed to wear shorts to university here, and like moving to the U.S., that was like the thing that I loved most. That like people do not give a crap about what you wear, and yeah, I don't know, or what you look like, or what you do with your body, or like things like that. I don't know.
What would you say about the Armenian community in each of those places? So I'm sure it's really interesting that you got to see 3 different Armenian diasporas and live in 3 different Armenian diasporas plus Armenia.
Mhm.
So how would you explain that experience?
I feel like in Syria, the Armenian community is very, like, I don't know, I feel like the community was very, I cannot tell you myself that personally I experienced the Armenian diaspora in Lebanon, because I really did not. I didn't really experience it. Like, the only thing I saw was like the little Armenian area, which is like known to be the Armenian area, which is like a horrible area, and like very just like smells bad. Everything like is like, but like Syria in a sense was, it was like a very homey environment in the sense, like my mom was like part of like the Syrian Armenian Red Cross. I don't know what it translates to, but like, so I was like always a part of that, but there was still like, when you read back about like Western Armenia, there's like a lot of like stories about like how badly women were treated, and I feel like there was still like those traces of that in Syria. Like, I personally didn't know anything about like Western Armenia. All I know is that like what we were taught, that like, oh, it was our land. It was like we had like an amazing life there. But like when I feel like when I got to the U.S., like I like read this one book like about like Western Armenians and how they used to live and like how women were treated, and it's like so depressing. And I was talking to my parents about it today, like about like how bad of like a community we actually like originate from when you think about it, because these women were like, they were treated like animals in a household. Like after they got married, like no one talked to them. She had to like clean the dishes for everyone. She had to sit by herself and eat. She had to clean the table. Like it was cook for everyone. Like no, like, and then like I feel like women till today, like the Syrian Armenian women are like still, they're not taught to like be their own person. They're always like taught to be someone who takes care of their family. And in that sense, I feel like the Syrian Armenians were still not in the level of like, I don't know, like civilization that I would have wanted them to be. But like we were still like known in Syria. Sorry, the flies annoying me. In Syria, we were still known to be like the more open-minded people that like we didn't have to wear like the hijab or anything, and like women went out by themselves. Like Syrians actually did actually do that, and in Armenia, I feel like, I don't know, Armenia just like disappoints me as a country. It's like just like disappointing because it's such a beautiful country and it has like so many beautiful parts to it, and then just the people are just like they're like from like 200 years ago, like they don't even know how to use deodorant, like the simplest thing, like, and it like bothers me just because like whenever I say I'm Armenian, I'm so proud of it to a lot of people, and I always like teach them about it. And then sometimes I think back and like I imagine like what if they like encounter someone else and like it's like so it's like embarrassing, you know, like that like people like this exist, and I just like cannot wait till the day to like few generations pass that like people can like become like more open-minded and like more up to date with the world, because it's not a matter of like they're like retaining like their culture and like doing it, they're just like just disgusting, I don't know. And then in America is really surprising, the Armenian community, because everyone is like either like they're like really into being Armenian or they're really not. Like they're like either like complete like outsiders of the community, or like they're just really involved and like they really want to do everything, and they're so against Turkey, so against like never wear anything from Turkey, never go to Turkey, never like, and then or it's people. It's yeah, I already got my point across, and it's like it was really interesting, and I feel like I've always been in the middle about it. Like I've never I've always been really proud to be Armenian, but I've never like been the type of person to like get like not talk to someone because they're Turkish, or like not buy a shirt because it was made in Turkey. And like a lot of my aunts like get mad at me for that, like in America, because in America like people are like they get mad at it more, and I don't know why, because like it's what happened before. It's not the same people, and we can't get mad, like we can't get disgusted by the language because we already have so many Armenians in Turkey right now. Like that does that mean we hate all the people that come from Bolis and like I don't know what, like they're also Armenian, and yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I like train of thought for no reason. And yeah, I don't know what I can say about the communities, honestly, just because I feel like I distance myself a lot from a lot of them. Like Armenian community in America, like the closest thing I got to it was like being in ASA and like meeting you and like meeting Amelia, and that's what I loved most about the US, because I feel like the US like talks more about identity, and like they like to focus on like the identity part of it, and I feel like over here it's more like, especially in Armenia, that's the thing that bothers me the most, is that their identity of being Armenian is the Armenian genocide and being the first Christian country, and they don't like identify anything else that comes to being Armenian. Like a friend of mine who's like going to MIT soon, she was trying to do the Lewis Foundation scholarship, and the only way she can get it was if she could prove that she's Armenian by giving her baptism papers. Like, how do you prove your ethnicity by giving religious papers? Like, that does not make any sense. And she had to go get baptized for that because it's just like crazy, yeah.
Well, in terms of identity, what do you feel? Do you feel Armenian, Syrian, Lebanese, American, Venezuelan?
Oh, no.
I'm mixed of all of them.
I know, there's too many.
How do you identify yourself?
No, of course I'm Armenian. Hopefully I'm an Armenian that can make Armenia better one day. I don't know. Syria's always going to be my home, but I don't know. I can never live there, especially now, obviously. But I'm very attached to Lebanon, but I'm always going to be Armenian. Like, when someone asks me, I say I'm Armenian, and then if they like want to know, I'll just say like I'm from Syria. Like they care too much, but like usually people know me as Armenian, and that's what I would like to go with. Not because I'm not happy that I'm from Syria. It's more that I just find like I like Armenian music. You know, like I like those are things that like I like hold close to me, and yeah.
To somebody who doesn't know what that means to be Armenian, how do you explain it to them?
How to be like someone that is Armenian that doesn't know how to be Armenian, or like someone that doesn't know what Armenians are.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that was like all my life in Cal Poly. Like literally, no one knows what Armenians are, or like the only thing they know is Kardashians. Like literally. So like the way I explain it to them is, well, usually like they already know that like from the Middle East, so I just like explain to them that like there's like a big community of us around the world, and like I explain to them what happened with the genocide and how everyone got spread apart, and like I just like explain to them about like how similar the culture is to like a lot of different cultures around by, because like I feel like a lot of the cultures in this area are like kind of similar in this sense, and yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. I just give them history facts.
And maybe you could speak a little bit about what it's been like for your parents starting a new life in Armenia.
My mom actually loves it here. Both of my parents are really happy here. They like we're all American citizens, but like my parents never thought twice about like moving to the US. Like they just did not want to go there, and they knew that like Armenia is like a lot more relaxed, and they wanted that. They didn't want to like be stressed out most of their life in America, because like America is like very stressful. So my mom, like she has a little business here, and it's like doing really well actually, and it's doing well in the sense that like she's happy that she's like not losing money, because the whole idea for her to start it was that she knew that we were gonna grow up and we were gonna leave, so she wanted to have something to do instead of like taking care of us. Because like I said, like people were like not like women didn't do like businesses in Syria too much. Very rarely people went and like, opened up their own stores, and this was like my mom's way of like doing something that wasn't just for me and my brother, just something for her to like spend time with and grow by herself. And it's like growing, and she's doing really well. And my dad at the same time, he's just like trying to like crack the code of like the country's like economy, of like trying to figure out like what to do to make money in a country that you can't really make too much money in. Like he like my dad like thinks in the future, so like he like bought like this like land and like put like planted like a bunch of like walnut trees and like a bunch like hundreds of them. And like that's like in like 10 years we'll make money off that, you know, like he's like planning things in the future, but like there's nothing going on right now. But I don't know. But they're all really happy because like there's like the huge Syrian Armenian community, and that's what they're used to. So they're really happy like being with people that like they know and that come from the same place, and like they like to do the same things. And it's like a really fun group actually. They're my mom's friends, so my parents' friends.
Have they been able to make a community here for themselves? Like what with these other Syrian Armenians, what are some of the things they do? Do they go out together? Do they go together?
Yeah, they mainly like either just meet up like in one of their houses or they go to dinner. One of them owns like a pool with a villa, so like they go to swim. They went swimming a couple of times. It's like 4 families, I think. Like and it's like an interesting group because like they didn't know the group was not like they weren't friends in Syria, but like one of them used to be our neighbor, and the other one was like my mom's like business partner at one point. Like just like random people, and like ended up being like this really fun group. And like one of them plays the accordion, so like they're like always singing and dancing with the accordion. It's like really fun. Like we go to Ashtara Gitzor and we do like barbecues there. Yeah, I don't know, like they do everything.
Do you think that they have found a way to preserve whatever elements of Syrian Armenian culture they left behind here?
Yeah, of course. Because, I mean, by them like not going out with too many people from here, that's them preserving themselves in the sense that they're staying in their same community. But yeah, like my mom is like, there's still like I think there's like another community for like Syrian Armenian women. I don't know what it's called. I don't think it's this one. My mom used to be like really involved with that like before. And I feel like it's just like different ways of like holding on to it in a sense. My mom kind of like, she doesn't work too much about it just because like she's like with her job, she's like kind of busy, but it's you're always going to preserve the culture because everyone knows everyone, kind of, especially now. So like even if you like don't want to be a part of it, everyone still knows who you are, you know. So you're always going to be a part of that. Like it's kind of scary, but yeah, that's how it is. Like I feel like you can't get out of it even if you want to. Like the Syrian Armenian environment. Like I'm always going to be like my brother's brother, you know. Like people don't know me too much in the Syrian Armenian community, so like I'm known as like either my dad's son or like my brother's brother, you know. Like
what about, so tell us a little about your brother. What did he do after he finished studying in Lebanon, and where is he now?
So he finished studying in Lebanon, and he was doing mechanical engineering there, and then he ended up going to the Netherlands to do his grad school in renewable energy. So he graduated from there and he didn't know what to do, so he did Birthright here, and he loved it. He loved Birthright. He met amazing people, had a lot of fun, and afterwards he got a job at like a solar power company here. So now I don't know, he's been telling me that like he's like been interacting with like a lot of people from like random parts of like Yerevan that like we don't see, because like we live in like the center, so we don't really, Yerevan is like so much bigger than the center that we don't really like talk about. And like he like meets all his coworkers are like from like Bangladesh or something. I don't know if you've heard of that area, and it's like not known to be like an amazing area like for people in the city. So like he was telling me like about like how all his coworkers like they don't understand anything my brother says because my brother says a lot of things in English because he was like educated in English and he's like working at like a renewable energy place, so like they don't understand each other. But he's good. My brother is still very involved with like Syrian Armenian people here though. Like all of his friends are like Syrian Armenian. Like we both went to the same school in Syria, but he was always like he always stayed close to his his Armenian friends in Syria, while I tried to not be close. Like I pushed myself to not be friends with them, which is why I don't know too many people.
Yeah. So you said that your brother has been, maintaining his contact with Syrian Armenians here in Armenia, and your parents have as well. And I'm thinking that there probably aren't that many Syrian Armenians in California and Cal Poly. Maybe there are. So I want to know, how have you been, if you have been, maintaining and preserving elements of your Syrian Armenian culture in California, and if not, why do you think you haven't been?
I think I have actually. Once I moved to the US, I feel like I became a lot more proud of where I'm from. Because I feel like once you go to the US and you realize that, like, oh, like, you're actually, like, you've seen a lot of the world and you've seen a lot of things that people haven't seen, you like, start to appreciate a lot from where you're from. So I think once I moved to the US, I was, like, a lot more interested into listening to Armenian music. I was a lot more interested in listening to Arabic music. And I think things like that, like, that pulled me into my roots more. Because I feel like before I would always like just listen to like European/American music, and like it didn't help me in any way, like it just, yeah. And once I went to the US, like I would have like all these like CDs of like classic Arabic singers, or like random like Anush and Inga, or I don't know, random Armenian singers, and I don't know, things like that like made me feel more comfortable with it, or like ways of like me missing the food, things like that. I don't know, like me driving like all the way to Glendale, like just to get like this like sahlab or something. Like I don't know if you guys know that. It's like this milky. Yeah, the drink is so good, but like we have that in Syria, like on the streets, like they sell them, and it's so hard to find it in the US. But yeah, I don't know, things like that, like not like me like actually talking to people. But actually, when my parents moved here, I was like kind of forced to like make some Syrian Armenian friends just so I could go out, like not stay at home. But I really do not get along with the way they think. So like a lot of the time when I'm there, I'm just like keeping quiet because like I just don't get along with anything they say. But yeah.
Do you think a lot of them have the mentality of like some of the things we were saying of before, closed-mindedness?
Yeah, like the girls want to get married to someone rich, and then the guys just want to have a nice car.
Earlier when you were saying that you wanted to be somebody who could, improve Armenia, or make a difference in Armenia, do you have any ideas of how you do that or what that would look like?
I have no idea. I just hope that one day I can do something, just because things need to change, honestly. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I could help. I just would love to make a change, just because there needs to be something done. I don't know. But I don't know how. I have no idea how to execute anything.
You mentioned some before, but maybe what are some of the biggest problems you see here that you think need changing?
Honestly, like, I've been talking about the same thing, but people just need to open up their minds. Like, it's just, like, I feel like they just need to be, like, taught to not be petty about some, like, of, like, the dumbest details of, like, what someone is wearing or what someone looks like. I feel like things like that, I don't know, it's like all of these, like, things that people were, like, things we're living with in the US of, like, to be comfortable with ourselves and, like, to be, like, who we want to be. I just wish that people were given the opportunity here, just because I feel like no one is given the opportunity here. And as soon as you want to be something that's not of the norm, you're, like, immediately, like, either picked on or beaten up or, like, God knows what, And actually being here, like, I've learned a lot about, like, of the community that is very sad, which I don't think I would want to talk on this thing for, but yeah.
Regarding Syrian Armenians here in Armenia, is there anything that you have heard about or seen that you think could help make the situation more comfortable or better for them here in Armenia?
Honestly, like as a country, I feel like they've already done a lot.
Armenia has done a lot for
Yeah,
Syrian Armenians.
I feel like that. But of course, like if you ask some other Syrian Armenians, like they probably would like think that like we need more help. But like I don't like the country doesn't have anything to give. So them already like paying for like most of like they're not paying it. AGBU is paying it, but like all these like different organizations all together, like they like pay for like the universities, they like pay for school, and like things like that already make a huge difference. Like people being able to go to like the American university, even though they don't have too many options of majors, but like people are still going there for free as long as they have like an okay grade, you know, things like that. Like even if you come from like a not very wealthy family, you're still able to go to university, to like a proper university here. But like I guess like the only way things can get better for Syrian Armenians is if the whole country changes, because the only problem right now is people cannot make any money. That's why people want to leave. Like the economy like just needs to change in some way. Like a miracle needs to happen here for it to like. Because the problem is that like at this point like Syrian Armenians and people here from Armenia are on the same level. You know, like at this point, just because like they've already been here for so long. It's been like 4 years, 5 years. Everyone's here, so it's just a matter of the country changing at this point for everyone to like be in a level of like comfort that they would want to be in.
What do you think are some factors that have kept a lot of these families here? Or if you can't speak to everybody, what about your family? What are the factors that have kept them here?
Like I said, my parents like how comfortable it is, and it reminds them of Syria in that sense, because Syria is like very similar in a way that like everyone's like relaxed, and but the difference in Syria was that like Syria had like a very big opportunity to make a lot of money, like in business. Like Syria was like very strong in that. That's why a lot of Syrian Armenians here that like are here, a lot of them like are like pretty well off. Like they don't come from like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe those are the ones that like I know of, just because I don't know. But yeah, I think that's what keeps a lot of people here. Like I feel like a lot of people are not used to like working too hard, and they like that people here don't work too hard either. I don't know if that's mean.
What do you think? Do you think that your parents would ever move back to Syria if things got better?
I don't think so. At this point, no, just because my dad knows that I wouldn't go back. So my dad's only hope is that I move here one day, even though I'm not going to move here either. But yeah.
What do you think your plans are for the next 5 years?
Graduate and then find a good job that I like. I don't know.
In the U.S.
Hopefully somewhere good. Is this wood? I'm going to knock on wood. Find a good job.
in the U.S.? Or you don't know?
So I was very against the US up until this summer when I actually stayed in LA, because I was working in Hollywood, and I actually really like enjoyed staying in LA in downtown. And I think after I graduate I would love to live in downtown LA, just because it's like growing a lot, and the arts district is a really nice area. So hopefully one day I'll be living in the arts district. And then applying to hopefully a good school in the East Coast for masters.
For architecture?
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Is there anything that you'd like people to know about Syrian Armenians? Or I don't know, anything?
Oh. Wait. I don't know. Syrian Armenians are like very proud to be Syrian Armenian. Like especially from Haleb. I don't know about any other places, but I know in Haleb like I have a couple of family friends from Syria that are in Glendale, and in Glendale, like they don't categorize like Armenians into like different cities that they're from. It's mainly like either you're like Persian Armenian, people from Armenia, or like Western Armenian, basically. And I know like a lot of the people there, like they like to distinguish themselves from like not like they're not like from Beirut, they're like from Aleppo. Like they say like I'm from Haleb, you know. And I think a lot of people hold on to that in a sense because they're really proud that they're from there. Because Aleppo was it was the biggest city in Syria. Like that's where all the money was in Syria. So even though Damascus was the capital, it was like Aleppo is the one. Aleppo was always like the main economic center of Armenia, of Syria. So I think a lot of people hold on to that, and a lot of people hold on to that also because Aleppo was also a very Syria was in altogether was a very welcoming country to Armenians because even though like they shouldn't have to like allow us to have our own schools, but they gave us the permission to have our own schools. Like, if you think about it, like we're like, people should be able to like open up their own schools, but like Armenians were like one of the few ethnic groups that actually had their own schools that they were allowed to teach into their own language, and Armenian. That's why Syrian Armenians are like always like really like they're like are very okay with the regime because like I feel like they always felt that they're very supported by the government, and that's why a lot of people from Syria do not mind the president or the president's family.
This is interesting what you said. And I had a question and I forgot it, but I have another question. Do you think that Aleppo was such an important Armenian city? Do you feel in any way that we as an Armenian diaspora are like losing something by losing Aleppo? Are we losing Aleppo? How do you feel?
Of course, we're losing it because like how many Armenians used to be there, and like how many Armenians are there right now, and how many Armenians are actually going to go back to it? Like all the people that went to Canada, all the people that went to Sweden, all the people that went to God knows where, no one's going to leave because everyone's already made their new life. Once you restart a new life, you're not going to go back to it because it's just impossible. That's why there's so many people everywhere. They just like, you go for somewhere for a bit, but you just end up staying. So by the Armenians not being there, it's never going to be the same. It's never going to be as big. It's never going to be as important. It's never going to. Hopefully, it lives on, but we don't know what's going to happen. We never know. But
do you see any connection between what's happening now in Aleppo to the Armenians and what happened 100 years ago?
yeah, in the sense that like we had to leave, but like you can't say that like everything that's happening in Syria is like targeted at Armenians. You know, like everyone had to leave. Like maybe I'm like saying this because I have so many like Muslim friends and stuff, but like everyone had to leave behind their homes. So even though like if you ask my aunt, like she would say like, oh, it's written on our foreheads, we have to move like every time we settle down. Like my aunt said that, but you couldn't control what happened. Like it's not aimed at us only, but we're just a casualty on the way.
Do you think that the fact that Armenians have had to resettle in the past after genocide and whatever other circumstances, do you think that's impacted or influenced in any way their ability to resettle again after this experience?
Well, I don't know, just because like I feel like you're asking me about like our history 100 years ago versus, but like if it's like someone that's already done it 100 years ago, but no one from my family did it, you know. So no, I don't think it helped. Like I don't think it made it any easier on us or like it made it any helpful because we were all born in one place. So like we were all raised in one place. So it didn't help me knowing that someone had to do this a while back. It just like made it more depressing.
Yeah, no, that's a fair.
Yeah. Because like I don't know the knowledge of my grandpa at the time. Like maybe if I did, like my great grandpa, like it would have been easier. But I don't know anything.
Yeah. What do you think has been the biggest challenge of these last 5 years, and what do you think has been the best thing that's come out of it?
Biggest challenge. Well, the best thing that came out of it is me growing as a person, because moving to Lebanon changed the way I think a lot. Because even though I'm talking about like how judgmental of and closed-minded everyone was, I was like judgmental as well at the time. So like I was also judgmental in like in other ways. So like moving to Lebanon like really opened up my mind in that sense. But then my biggest challenge was probably, I don't know, like finding a way to like help out in a way, like in the smallest way I can. I don't know, because I feel like it's really easy to get lost in the U.S. And I wanted to like help out in some way, and I think that's been a challenge, just to like not feel like a horrible person for like not doing anything and leaving. Because like when you think about it, like I've had like huge culture shocks every now and then, just because like a friend of mine's brother like passed away, and like my neighbor's kids passed away, and like all these things, and it's like all these things were like happening while I was like I found out like my really close friend's brother passed away like while I was like in a drive-through for In-N-Out, and like it's like these like weird culture shocks that like you're like, how am I like in this drive-through like halfway around the world while this kid was like blown up at his school. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know, it's like that was like the challenge, like finding a way to like not feel bad, because I was like living my life.
Do you think you've been able to do that?
Yeah,
How?
I have, and I feel bad that I have. Like, I've been like these moving to the US. Like I've been like 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 I've been doing really good in school, and like I've got to live in London last summer doing the summer program, and like meeting amazing people from around the world. Working like volunteering in the US, like with like people from like Harvard and stuff like that, you know, like, and meeting people, and yeah, I don't know, I've been doing really well, and it's like, yeah, I forgot what I was talking about, but yeah.